Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today I have the story for you. A story that in my opinion is way more entertaining than the Super Bowl, than the Super Bowl commercials, and definitely you guys are going to find quite entertaining. This is about a guy, a husband, who shares his story from a few years ago, how he catches his wife having an affair with a coworker, and let me tell you, this dude handles things like a boss. And I might add, goes completely scorched earth. In fact, he goes scorched earth. There may be some of you that think that he went too far, which you're just going to have to wait and hear the whole story here, and you all can debate in the comments section about this. I'll be really going to go over here, guys, for all you guys out there that have been married or in serious relationships, and in your honest view, were a good, loyal, loving husband or boyfriend, and found out the thanks you got for all your loyalty and good nature was to be cheated on. And you're going to see here this guy, things end up quite well for him in the end. So this is obviously a longer one, as you can see at the bottom, so I'm going to jump right into it. And by the way, guys, I haven't been on YouTube for a couple days. I had to take a couple days off for a family matter. Things are stabilized, if you will, so I appreciate your patience, and always I greatly appreciate all you guys. So it starts off, says here, hi SSM. I've been a subscriber since COVID and figured that I'd share my story with you. While it's definitely not as crazy as some of the stories I've heard on your channel, I think it's different than most in the way that I handle things. It's not insane crazy, but you handle things definitely like a boss, which is, rare in the grand scheme of things. For some background here, I met my wife when I was 24 years old and she was 19. We got serious, got married, and had 2 kids in a relatively short period of time. Smack! Why the rush? Take your time, gentlemen. I went to college, then got a decent job with the potential for a good career. I always made enough money for us to live reasonably well, not rich though, on my salary alone. She did not go to college, she never had any issues holding a job, but she never had a high-paying one either. After our first son was born, she stopped working to stay at home to be a full-time mother. Then we had our daughter, and that meant that she was completely finishing with work. We spent the next 15 years living a fairly normal life, and we're a relatively normal family. Okay, so you took care of everything. She was a stay-at-home mom, raised the kids, all that. So I'm guessing you are definitely, at least when all this goes down here, you were no doubt in probably your maybe mid-40s, and she was probably early 40s. I don't know how old you are now, but picking up to the point, the kids were in high school, and she had been working again for about the last 2 years, the same type of job she'd always been. This incident happened while we were at home one afternoon. We were sitting on the deck, watching the dog run around the backyard like a lunatic. The kids were both in school. She stood up, pulled her phone out, and started making a video of the dog. I stood right behind her, put my arms around her stomach, and lowered my chin to rest on her shoulder. So one of these tender moments, taking it all in, the dog, the backyard, the life, and watch what happens. I went back and forth between watching the dog directly and looking at him through her phone. It was after about 10 seconds that she received a drop-down message notification. It wasn't from a number, so it was clearly someone in her contacts. But since my eyes focused on the text, I didn't see the sender. She pushed it up with her thumb extremely fast. While it was too fast for me to read it, I definitely caught a few words, particularly wild and next time. Well, most people, I'm sure, would stop and see what the message is all about, if it was some random thing. So she's like, oops, what timing, huh? I asked, who was it? And she said, I don't know. Bullshit. Boom. That was when my instincts immediately went into high alert. In all our years together, she had never done or said anything that filled my stomach and me with such instant apprehension and dread. I momentarily became physically weak. My mind exploded with many simultaneous thoughts, such as, how do you not know? I brushed off texts from people in the exact same manner plenty of times. I couldn't possibly not know who was sent by, even if I tried. You can't help but instantly recognize the sender in just a tiny fraction of a second. And number 2, there's no way that this is an inconsequential dog video takes priority over an incoming text of an unknown nature. She already had many short videos of the dog on her phone. While they were all nice, no individual video was so special or precious that it would really matter much if it was deleted. Number 3. I instantly recalled an incident from a couple years prior that I didn't think much of at the time. To keep it short, I'll just say that she acted a little out of character when I wanted to use her phone. My battery had just died. I don't know if I said a couple years earlier, a couple weeks before. Okay. Between those thoughts and those words that I caught, I realized that I had to act right now. I put my hand on her phone and squeezed it with enough strength that made it clear that I was taking it from her. As soon as she protested, I took it by force. She attempted to resist at first, but immediately realized the futility of that. "You can't take my phone!" I took her phone inside, put in her password, and that's when the second gut punch hit me. And as you can probably guess, the password had been changed. Of course it has. And meanwhile, she's probably banging on the freaking door. "Let me in! Let me in!" To put that into context, neither of us had ever used anything but the same passwords before. In all the years we've been together, whether it was our smartphones, laptops, or desktops, there was nothing insignificant. Then I asked her what her password was. The third gut punch. Rather than give it to me, she asked why. I'm sure that to many of you, changing your password and asking why may seem perfectly normal, but not to us. Given the nature of our relationship over the last 20 years, this is practically a de facto confession that something horrible had happened. And all the evidence was right in her phone. All the secrets of the world can be found in someone's phone or browser history. I answered her with "so I can inspect every single thing that you have on here." She then stuttered and stammered like she knew she needed to say something, but had no idea what. I cut her off and told her point blank that I was keeping her phone, and she wouldn't get it back until after I went through it. So this guy, he's not messing around, and good for him. And clearly she's shocked by this. This is not what she expected if she were ever to get caught. Clearly she didn't plan on this. She then said, "Why are you doing this?" I answered with, "What's the password?" And she answered with something that neither of us had ever heard, or so I thought ever would hear. "None of your business." I'm making it my business, Sugar Muffin. At this point, I realized that the conversation was absolutely pointless. I grabbed my jacket and started to head out. She asked me, where was I going? And I couldn't help but throw her words right back at her, and I said, "None of your business." I knew I had to get her phone unlocked. While I certainly am a competent guy, I am not a tech guy, and I didn't know where to begin. Can I do it myself? Do I go to Verizon? Do I go to Apple? Do I go to a third party? Will there be legal concerns? Then I immediately thought of an absolute diabolical idea. My wife was clearly terrified at the thought of me leaving by myself with her phone, so I invited her to come along with me. She asked, "Where are we going?" and I just said, "Just for a drive." She agreed, and I told her I didn't want to talk about anything, so the drive was quiet. Meanwhile, I'm kind of surprised she's not trying to tackle you in the front yard in front of the neighbors for her phone. As far as I was concerned, the silent drive just added to my belief that she had done something unspeakable. If you think about it, my behavior over the last 20 minutes was absolutely out of control. If she was innocent, she would have been horrified and furious at what I was doing to her. But no, instead of telling me what a monster I was and expressing her shock and disbelief that I was even capable of behaving in this way, it seemed like her only genuine concern was what would ultimately happen with her phone. Well, I've done plenty of stories when the wives, girlfriends, whatever, were guilty as hell, but they still put on the act that, you're such a monster, you're such an a-hole, how dare you not trust me? You all get the point. So just because she wasn't doing that doesn't mean that, I drove to a public park located about 3 miles from the house. Since it was a weekday and the weather was chilly, the park was practically empty. I opened the door and got out without saying anything. She started to say something, but I completely ignored her. Then she got out of the car and started coming around to my side. After she took a few steps, I quickly opened my door, got back in the car, and locked the doors. Well, you mentioned it's cold outside. She became absolutely distraught and asked what I was doing. I told her she was either going to give me the password or I was going to leave her here with no phone and no ride. So, this is funny, but you all can imagine how this could go very bad for him if you think about it. In hindsight, it really was a shame that I wasn't in the right state of mind to properly enjoy and appreciate her absolutely epic and glorious meltdown. Considering that I was only 30 minutes into what was ultimately the absolute destruction of my life, as I knew it, I wasn't able to enjoy any satisfaction whatsoever. At least I was fortunate enough to witness it. At that point, I started to feel a little bit guilty and began to second-guessing myself. But those thoughts were immediately dismissed by the realization that she should have ended all this she could have ended this at any moment, but simply giving me the password. Because you're having a battle of wills here, man, and she's not going to budge. I told her through the barely cracked window that I was going to get in her phone to go through everything, and that nothing could be done to stop me. Then I told her that the only thing she has any control over is whether she gets a ride back to the house or gets stranded. And of course, the only way to get a ride home was to give me the password. Dude, you're not effing around, are you? You have to play hardball. That's what is respected. That's just it is what it is. I then started the car and told her that I'll be driving away in 10 seconds and I wouldn't be looking back. After 10 seconds, I put the car in drive, took my foot off the brake, and the car slowly started moving forward. She's still standing her ground. She's not budging. I was quite concerned that she would throw herself in front of the car to stop me. That'd actually be pretty funny. You're driving away and she's on the windshield, you know. Thankfully, she did not. After the car slowly rolled a few feet, she finally gave me the password. It's about fucking time, you stubborn jackass. I stopped, put the car in park, and unlocked the phone. I told her that I wouldn't let her in until after I went through everything. Then I shut the window. She tried talking loud, so I just blasted the radio. She shut up, walked away, and sat on the park bench. I finally started digging through her phone. It turns out that she has been having you-know-what with a coworker. Upon confirming this, I became ill and had to stop looking at the phone. I took a moment to regain focus, and then continued. It didn't take long for me to find a picture of them. He looked like he was only a few years older than our son. So a young guy at work is getting some cougar action. Your wife's probably in her early 40s at this point, and he's only a few years older than your son, so he's like half her age, half your age. And probably her big giant ego boost to make her feel like she's not getting old and she's still attractive, attention and validation, you get the point. And you got all the info right here. I wasn't interested in details like how long it had been going on and what kind of feelings she had for him. Instead, I needed to find the most damaging things that I could so that I could absolutely destroy and humiliate her to every single person that she knew. And guys, he's not joking. He's not exaggerating here. I told you, scorched earth. I went to the private folder of her photos that requires you to re-enter the password. I immediately found more pictures along with a short video that made me absolutely sick. These morons record, it never ceases to amaze you. They record actions and store them on their phones. You know darn well she's showing this to like her fucking girlfriends. They're all comparing notes. At this point, I realized that I couldn't give her back the phone, and there was absolutely no way I was letting her back in the car. So I did exactly what I promised her I wouldn't do. If she gave me her password, I drove off and left her stranded without her phone. I didn't even look back in the mirror. Again, this could have blown up in his face, but fortunately did not. Upon arriving home, I changed the password on her phone so that only I could access it. I decided that would be keeping her phone indefinitely. I sent the video, the pictures, and the screenshots of some of the text to my phone, then to my email so I had multiple copies in case anything were to somehow disappear. My son came home while I was doing this, and I figured there was no point in waiting. I said, sit down, I gotta tell you something major. So, you are immediately you're controlling the narrative. You're not letting her get to the kids first or anybody else. That's the smart way to go. I told him point blank that I just discovered that his mom has been having you-know-what with a young 20-something from her work. And that is something that most people might think was outrageously inappropriate, and I don't disagree. Gee, can you guys all guess what he's about to do here? I figured it out the first time reading it. But I don't care either. I held up her phone and showed him a picture of the two of them together completely naked. Something no kid ever wants to see. His mom butt naked, probably with her mouth in certain places that we don't want to think about our mothers doing. My son was in absolute shock. Yeah, no shit, Dad. And had no words. I told him that none of this would have an effect on our relationship. I don't know about that, dude. You're showing again a picture of his mom getting plowed in many which ways to the son. He may think a little differently of you for showing him that. That ain't gonna go out of his head. He's gonna have to be fucking hypnotized or something to get that shit out of his head. Every time his mom wants to give him a kiss, he can be like, "Oh shit, she used the fucking Aquafresh." Then I told him that I was sorry to have to say this, but the truth is that his mother is nothing but a dirty WHORE. I'm going to divorce her immediately. I'll tell him that he'll be free to live with whichever one of us he wants to. Gee, tough decision. I told him that I was sorry to be dropping all this on him out of nowhere, but I just discovered all this myself only a couple hours ago. I told him that the picture I showed him was one of many, and that his mother's phone had more than enough indisputable evidence, including a video, to prove that everything I told him was 100% true. Then I told him that he was free to look through the phone himself. I think one picture is enough, Dad, for him to get the fucking point. But I understood if he didn't want to. You think? He did not. He said the picture was all he needed to see. I asked him how I should tell his sister. Probably not showing her the pictures again. He said that he would take care of that, and I agreed. My wife eventually made it home. To this day, I don't know how or care how. I told her not even to think about speaking to me, and to take everything she needed from my bedroom and move into the spare bedroom. Well, good for you. In all these stories, usually it's the husband that moves into the fucking spare bedroom or the cottage or the goddamn couch in the basement that's, 75 years old. No, she can leave. Good. And to take everything she needed from my bedroom, blah, blah, blah. My son just looked at her in disbelief, and of course, the waterworks began. Of course. When all else fails, Niagara Falls. He told her to stay away from him, and she went directly upstairs. A while later, our daughter arrived home. My son immediately took charge and told her to come outside with him for a moment. Yeah, because your son didn't want you to show more of your wife's adventures on her phone. He grabbed his mother's phone, so I gave him the password. I couldn't hear anything my son said, but oh my God, I could hear my daughter. Okay, maybe he did show her. The wife obviously could too, because the cries from upstairs were loud and clear in the kitchen. Oh, I can only imagine the noise coming from the spare bedroom where she was. Ooh! It's like, shut the fuck up! I'm watching the playoffs! The next few days were surprisingly uneventful. The wife stayed away from me, the kids ignored her, and she actually didn't spend all her time begging for forgiveness. At least not after her initial attempts were rejected. She just stayed in the guest room, only leaving to eat and use the bathroom. We had a landline in the house, and she was able to call her work and tell them that she needed time off. She used the landline just enough that her cell phone wasn't getting blown up by people trying to reach her. I think that one reason she kept to herself and didn't bother me was that my behavior when I took her phone from her generally terrified her. In a way, she was coming to terms with the realization that I wasn't the person she thought I was, just like I was about her. In other words, she probably never in a million years thought that you would handle things the way you did in terms of when the thing popped up on the phone and you were suspicious. She didn't expect that. And also you going scorched earth. And by the way, we're not done with him scorching earth, guys. We're just getting started. The kids were handling surprisingly well. Other than completely ignoring her mom, my son acted relatively normal. My daughter was more upset. She referred to her mother as the WHORE. Upon hearing that, I slightly chuckled in a low-key way that made it clear she had my blessing to use that term. It's likely that your son is more likely to forgive the mom, or at least move on, have a relationship with her than the daughter. Because while I've done plenty of stories where the daughters stick with the mothers, there's other stories where the daughters should truly have a great relationship with their fathers. When they find out what the mother's done to the father and the family, there ain't no forgiving the mother from the daughter. Oh. And I know a lot of you guys have heard those stories. I'm very thankful that nothing like this ever happened when the kids were younger. I put a keyed lock on my bedroom door so she had absolutely no access. I also had taken off work. At first, I just stayed mostly in my room, thinking about things and digging more into her phone. The digging didn't turn up anything new. After a couple days of feeling sorry for myself, I was ready to finally start destroying her. We had a small friend group that consists of couples. I called my closest friend from the group and told him everything. I sent him two of the most humiliating pictures she had, along with screenshots of a few texts, and told him that nothing would make me happier than him sharing them with everyone. Remember, gentlemen, these pictures on her phone didn't appear by magic. She willingly archived her events with this young lad and stored him on her phone. I know that from a legal standpoint, that was not a good idea. But at that particular moment, I didn't give a crap at all. I was expecting her phone to start blowing up at some point, but no, it's like everyone just cut her off without even trying to reach out to her. To this day, I'm still friends with some of them. None of them talk to her. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Well, the ones that you don't talk to, I wonder if the wives knew what was going on or were up to no good themselves. Who knows? Next, I had to tell her parents. Oh, Jesus. I decided to tell her mother, and that her mother could handle telling her father. As I had done with my friend, I sent her mother the two pictures and the same text. I told her I had plenty more, including a graphic video, that I would happily send upon a request. She declined. I think your mother-in-law got the point with the two pictures. I always had a positive relationship with the in-laws, so it was unfortunate I had to say what I had to say next. I let her know that while I was allowing her to be the one to tell her husband out of respect, I would take matters in my own hands if she did not. I would not allow for him to be unaware of what was actually happening. I asked her not to give him the watered-down version of events. I also let her know that I would not tolerate him being told anything that even remotely suggested that I bore any blame. Yeah, and if you weren't careful, believe me, your wife would have twisted the story a bit. You're the reason she cheated. So he works too much or whatever. I also let her know that her grandkids already knew and they saw their mother's phone. So it was inevitable that giving her husband an accurate version of events would ultimately backfire at some point, or inaccurate version of the events would backfire at some point in the future. She was absolutely appalled that I let the kids see the phone. Yeah. Personally, I wouldn't have shown the son and the kids the pictures. I would have made it clear. And if they didn't believe you, that's not true, Dad. I got proof. No, not my mother. Okay, son, here she is. There's your mom's mouth. Then, only then would I do that. But I wouldn't willingly, even as pissed off as I would be. That's the only thing. I know there's going to be a lot of agreements and disagreements about that particular subject there. They deserve to know. But if they wanted to see the pictures, fine. I told her that I understand and I agree that it probably was appalling. But I also told her that I have no regrets about doing it. I told her that my top priority was to make sure that the kids knew the truth and were not giving any false versions of what happened. I then ended the call on good terms. Sadly, I haven't communicated with either of them ever since. It is unfortunate because you said you had a good relationship with them, but at the end of the day, they may be really pissed off and disappointed in their daughter, but they're going to choose her, of course. Well, most of the time. After that, I made an appointment with a divorce lawyer. All right. To be honest, this is kind of where the story ends. I said that because nothing really crazy or dramatic happened from that point on. The wife moved in with her parents and still lives with them to this day. She didn't contest the divorce. She could have gotten alimony, but the kids told her that they would hate her guts forever if she came after my money, after destroying our family. Holy shit. Those are some loyal kids. Good job. I'm sure their Christmas presents and birthday presents were quite generous the following year. Her parents are fairly wealthy, and she's an only child, which means she's a spoiled asshole. She's just fine financially. Part of me wished that her parents had come down much harder on her, but then again, maybe I'd be paying alimony if they had. Yes, exactly. Both kids lived with me until they eventually moved out. I sold the house and gave the WHORE, he says, sorry, I couldn't help myself, half the profit, as was our agreement per the divorce. It was a hefty sum, and yes, you bet your ass I kept the dog, R.I.P. Buster. Darn right you should keep the dog. Yes, R.I.P. Buster. Eventually the kids let their mother back into their lives, but it was never quite the same. My son put it best when he told me that he had forgiven her, but he would never forget. I've stayed single, having had a couple flings since then, but nothing more than that. The kids are doing just fine. You know, after 2 decades of being married and busting your ass and being a good loyal husband and everything you did, I can certainly understand why you have. Notice he didn't say, he didn't just say I've been married. I haven't had any relationships either. He's been single ever since. Who could blame him? Bro, I don't know how old you are now. You're probably at the very least late 40s, if not 50s. You got plenty of good life to live. And why get back? Why ever consider getting married again? Or, you know, do what you want to do. Do what makes you happy. Sorry if the ending was anticlimactic. Dude, this is a good story. But despite her horrible and treasonous behavior, my ex was not an evil monster, like so many of the women in your videos are. I'm going to come back to that one. That's all I got. Thanks for what you do, SSM. To me, you have the best qualities of Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate without any of the bad, all in one package. I wish you the best of health, wealth, and happiness, and on the off chance I ever run into you, the IPA is on me. Well, thank you, sir. That was a great story. I really enjoyed that, and holy crap. But your part when you said here, I'm going to read this again. But despite her horrible and treasonous behavior, my ex is not an evil monster like so many of the women in your videos are. Well, believe me, I've read stories when, believe me, they were like the spawn of the devil himself. However, she's no fucking saint. After all those years that you were married and you took care of her and you everything, and Lord knows how long this was going on. You said yourself, you're like, you know what, I don't need to have how long it's been going on. I got the proof right here what's been going on in the present. You have no idea how long things were going on, how she's been lying to you and everything, and all the bullshit that she was, you know, the whole, how difficult she made for you to get the information out, and then, you know what I mean, and the fact that she was effing that guy, taking pictures, videos, and how long that could have gone on, and I don't know, if the kids didn't know and join forces with you and say, if she would try to rake you over the coals in the divorce process, you know, your kids said they never forgive her, never talk to her again. If your kids didn't stand up to you, it could have been a lot worse. So I wouldn't say that she's this evil monster like in many stories, but she is, in my opinion, a piece of garbage on many fronts. And you know, so, but anyhow, that's beside the point. Well, anyhow, bro, you handle this like a boss. You really did just go scorched earth, and I'm sorry it happened. I mean, Jesus, you obviously expected to have, you know, till death do you part, but clearly no, she was with her younger guy. And I gotta wonder, honestly, if it was about the young sausage or just the attention and validation and the butterflies from the young sausage. Who knows? But you know what? You're free, you're on your own, and you still got plenty of, you could be in your 50s, and if you take care of yourself and you're doing well, you're considered a prize and a catch. You're still at the end of the prime. Her prime is bye-bye a long time ago, and she's just staying with mom and dad. But anyhow, I hope you're doing well. I hope your kids are doing well, and I wish you a great life. But anyhow, guys, this guy handled it like a boss. Give this guy a shout out in the comment section for his boss behavior and his scorched earth method. And I'd like to hear, guys, do you think he went too far, particularly with showing the kids the pictures? Like not saying, I got proof right here if you want to see it. No, here, son. And your son's like, oh, Jesus. I want to know what you think about that. He went too far. Let's debate here in the comments. Let's have some fun here. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.